A millionaire CEO was enjoying his meal until a little girl's note on a napkin broke him into tears. At the height of his power, billionaire CEO Liam Whitaker thought he had everything until a simple note hidden under a restaurant napkin shattered his world. A daughter he never knew, a choice he never expected. As secrets from the past collide with the life he built, Liam faces a decision no boardroom ever prepared him for: business, empire, or newfound family. What happens when a man who controls everything is confronted with the one thing he can't negotiate: love? Stay with us because this story will break your heart, heal it, and change the way you see true success forever. Before we begin the story, leave a comment below. Tell us where you're watching from, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our latest stories. Enjoy the story. Liam Whitaker was a man who never believed in surprises. Every decision he made was calculated, every move executed with precision. At 45, the CEO of Whitaker Holdings had built an empire of steel and glass, his life a masterpiece of control. That evening, seated at a private table in the Luminary Manhattan's premier restaurant, he wore his power like a perfectly tailored suit. Impeccable, untouchable. The laughter of the investment bankers around him barely registered as he swirled the wine in his glass, half listening to their praises, already strategizing his next major acquisition. And then, life unplanned, uncontrolled, slipped under his defenses. As a waiter cleared his plate, Liam noticed a folded napkin left underneath, oddly deliberate frowning. He picked it up. Hidden from the table's view, he unfolded it under the tablecloth. The handwriting was small, shaky, yet heartbreakingly clear. "My grandmother Isabel says you are my father. We are at Willow Creek Shelter. Please come before it's too late. Ella." Liam's hand froze. The chatter at the table faded into a dull roar in his ears. Isabel. The name stabbed through years of carefully buried memories. Isabel Carter, his first love, the woman he had once vowed to build a future with before ambition seduced him away. He had left her behind for boardrooms and billion-dollar dreams. He had never looked back. Until now. Without a word, Liam rose from his chair, his movements sharp, almost mechanical. The chair scraped loudly against the hardwood floor. The others blinked at him in confusion. "I need to leave," Liam said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. "Family emergency." Family. A word he had never once used to excuse himself from business. 20 minutes later, Liam's black Bentley pulled up in front of Willow Creek Shelter. It was a modest, aging building with peeling bricks and flickering porch lights. Nothing about it resembled the polished, curated world Liam had spent his life creating. He sat frozen for a long moment, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Then he forced himself to move, to push open the door, to step into a world where he had no plan, no control. Inside, a woman with tired eyes greeted him. She introduced herself as the shelter director and led him down a dim hallway. "She's been asking for you," the woman said softly. "Isabel told her you might come someday." At the end of the hallway, the door opened and in walked a small figure that changed everything. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Blonde hair tumbled in soft waves around her shoulders. Her face was delicate, heartbreakingly familiar. But it was her eyes, startlingly blue, piercing his eyes, that shattered the last wall inside him. She approached slowly, her tiny hand extended, revealing a small crescent-shaped birthmark on her wrist. A mark Liam knew all too well, a birthright that no document could deny. "Hello," she said shyly. "I'm Ella." For a man who had closed billion-dollar deals with a single look, who had bent industries to his will, Liam Whitaker found himself utterly, devastatingly speechless. Ella watched him carefully, as if she too were gauging a decision of monumental importance. He could feel her assessing whether he was someone worth hoping for. The shelter director handed him a file. "Her mother, Isabel, passed away 3 days ago. She named you on the birth certificate. Ella has no other known family. We'll need official proceedings, of course. But for now, she needs somewhere to go. Somewhere to go. The words echoed hollowly. Ella needed a place. But what she deserved was so much more than that. I'm taking her with me, Liam said without hesitation, surprising even himself. Tonight, as they exited into the cold New York night, Ella hesitated by the passenger door of his car. Is it okay? She asked, her voice trembling. Are you sure you want me? The question broke something inside Liam, something he hadn't realized had been hollow for years. He crouched down so he could meet her eyes directly. I didn't know about you until tonight, he said quietly. But yes, Ella, I want you. We'll figure this out together. She nodded once solemnly and climbed into the car. The drive to Liam's penthouse was silent, except for the quiet hum of the engine. Ella clutched a battered suitcase in her lap, her wide eyes taking in the glittering skyline. Liam stole glances at her, struggling to reconcile the sudden knowledge that he was no longer alone in the world. A daughter, a living piece of the love he had sacrificed on the altar of ambition. When they arrived, the elevator whisked them directly into his home. Gleaming marble floors reflected the soft, overhead lights. Tasteful, modern art lined the walls. Everything about the space screamed success. Ella stood motionless in the center of the vast living room suitcase, still clutched tightly in her small hands. This is where you live? She asked, her voice small. Yes, Liam replied, suddenly seeing his home through her eyes, cold, sterile, lifeless. Ella nodded, polite but unsure, and Liam felt a pang of guilt. This place was no home for a child. I'll show you your room, he said, leading her down the hallway. The guest room was sleek, impersonal. A king-sized bed, gray walls, abstract art. Liam flicked on the lights and realized how wrong it all felt. It's very big, Ella said, setting her suitcase down with careful reverence. We'll fix it up tomorrow, Liam promised, vowing silently to fill it with color warmth. Life, everything she deserved but had been denied. Later that evening, after a muted dinner of takeout, Liam hastily ordered. He stood outside her door, watching her unpack. She arranged a few worn clothes, a battered teddy bear, and a single, framed photograph of a smiling woman, Isabel. She placed it carefully on the nightstand. Liam swallowed the lump in his throat. He hadn't just missed out on 8 years of Ella's life. He had missed the chance to say goodbye to Isabel. The city stretched out beyond the penthouse windows, a glittering empire Liam had built with his bare hands. And yet, for the first time, it felt meaningless. Inside this modest room, a new world was beginning. One he hadn't planned for, hadn't anticipated, but knew without a doubt was the most important thing he would ever build. And this was only the beginning. If you feel touched by the story so far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned, because the next chapters of Liam and Ella's journey are even more emotional, inspiring, and unforgettable. The next morning dawned gray and heavy over New York City. Liam Whitaker stood in the kitchen, staring into the depths of his fridge, as if expecting it to magically produce something suitable for an 8-year-old's breakfast. It was a bleak landscape of bottled water, gourmet leftovers, and expensive wine. No cereal, no fruit, not even a loaf of bread. He closed the door, feeling strangely unprepared, as if this small domestic failure exposed a deeper truth he hadn't dared confront. Ella padded into the kitchen, still wearing the slightly oversized pajamas one of the shelter volunteers had given her. She paused by the counter, her hands clasped in front of her, uncertainty written all over her small frame. Are you hungry? Liam asked, trying to sound casual. She nodded. Do you have cereal? Liam smiled faintly, the first genuine smile he'd felt since last night. Not yet. How about we go out for breakfast? Ella's face lit up just a little, and Liam took that as a victory. An hour later, they sat in a sunny booth at a small diner tucked into a quiet side street. It was a far cry from the high-end restaurants Liam normally frequented, but somehow it felt right. Ella ordered pancakes and a glass of orange juice, her manners meticulous but her eyes constantly darting around, alert for any sign of disapproval. Liam ordered black coffee, feeling acutely aware of how foreign all of this was to him. As she methodically cut her pancakes into small, careful bites, Liam ventured, "Tell me about your school. What subjects do you like?" Ella shrugged her fork, pausing midair. "I like reading and art. Mrs. Carmichael said I'm good at drawing." "I bet you are," Liam said, meaning it. He remembered Isabel sketching landscapes on scraps of paper. Her creativity, effortless and vibrant, Ella had inherited that gift. He was certain of it. The conversation drifted into silence. Not uncomfortable, but not easy, either. Liam realized how little he knew about children in general, and about his daughter specifically. He had been so good at building companies, negotiating billion-dollar deals, mastering every complex system he encountered. Yet here, in this simplest of relationships, he was entirely out of his depth. After breakfast, they visited a department store. Liam told Ella to pick out clothes, shoes, whatever she needed, but she hesitated, hovering near the displays without touching anything. "Well, go ahead," he encouraged. "Anything you like." She glanced up at him, her face serious. "Mom always said to check the price tags first." Another pang tightened in Liam's chest. While he had lived in penthouses and jetted between continents, Isabel had raised their daughter with care and caution, budgeting every penny. "Today," he said softly, "don't worry about price tags." Even then, Ella moved cautiously, choosing modest items, plain jeans, simple shirts, sturdy sneakers. No frills, no extravagance. Only when they wandered past the art supplies did something spark in her. She stopped in front of a watercolor, set her fingers, brushing the box almost reverently. "You like to paint?" Liam asked. Ella nodded shyly. "Mom said painting helps when you can't find the right words." Without hesitation, Liam added the watercolor set to their cart. When they returned to the penthouse, Liam realized he had no idea how to fill a child's afternoon. His life had always been a race from one meeting to another. His schedule, so tightly packed, he barely had time to breathe, let alone color or play. "Would you like to paint?" he asked. Ella's eyes lit up, and for the first time since they met, she smiled, a real, full smile that softened every line of her face. They spread newspapers over the kitchen table. Liam watched as Ella dipped her brush into the vivid colors, her movements sure and graceful. He picked up a brush, awkwardly dabbed it into blue paint, and tried to copy her. His attempt at a tree looked more like a sad lollipop, and Ella giggled. It was the best sound Liam had heard in years. As the afternoon melted into evening, Liam found himself sitting back in his chair, just watching her paint. It was such a simple thing, but it filled the sterile space of his penthouse with life, with laughter, with something that had been missing for far too long. Later that night, after Ella had gone to bed, Liam sat alone in his living room, staring out over the glittering city skyline. His phone buzzed incessantly, texts from board members, updates from his executive assistant, reminders of meetings he was missing. Every vibration was a tug back into his old world, a world where nothing mattered except the next conquest, the next deal. But now every message felt hollow, compared to the memory of Ella laughing over a crooked blue tree. He knew there would be consequences to the choices he was making. His absence would be noticed. His competitors would circle. His empire might tremble at the edges. And yet, for the first time in his life, Liam Whitaker didn't care. Because for the first time, he wasn't building for power. He was building for something real, for someone real. As he turned off his phone and headed toward the guest room to check on Ella one last time before sleeping, Liam felt the heavy armor he had worn for decades. His ambition, his detachment, his relentless drive begin to crack. He had no roadmap for what lay ahead, but this time for once he didn't want one. And their story, this incredible, unexpected story, was just getting started. The days that followed settled into a fragile rhythm. Liam Whitaker, the man who once thrived on rigid precision and unbroken schedules, now found himself adapting to the unpredictable tempo of life with an 8-year-old girl. Mornings began with messy attempts at breakfast, usually ending with laughter over burnt toast or lopsided pancakes. Afternoons often blurred into quiet painting sessions, reading time, or short walks in Central Park where Ella would marvel at the horses and the street musicians. But beneath the surface of their tentative bond, reality loomed. The media, relentless in its hunger for a story, had finally caught scent of Liam's new life. Photos of him and Ella snapped during one of their quieter mornings, shopping for art supplies, surfaced across gossip columns and business publications. Headlines screamed of the billionaire's secret daughter. Speculation growing wilder with each passing hour. Liam had expected it. What he hadn't anticipated was the backlash within his own empire. The board of Whitaker Global Holdings summoned an emergency meeting. Executives who had once bowed to his vision now questioned his priorities. The Seattle merger, a crown jewel in his expansion plan, hung in delicate balance, and whispers of his distractions were beginning to erode investor confidence. He sat at the long, polished conference table, the Manhattan skyline sprawling outside the glass walls, listening as the board chairman Vincent Hale voiced the growing concerns. "You've built this company with a singular focus, Liam," Vincent said, his tone carefully measured. "No one doubts your commitment. But these developments are raising serious concerns. Investors need reassurance. The Seattle team needs direct leadership." Liam's jaw tightened. He understood the stakes. The Seattle merger was critical, not just for his company's future, but for his legacy. "I can manage both," Liam said simply. "There will be no delay." Vincent exchanged glances with the other board members. "You're expected in Seattle next week. For at least 3 weeks. Full oversight." Across the city, Ella was preparing for her first day at Westridge Academy, the prestigious school Liam had chosen for her. A school where she could thrive, surrounded by opportunities he had never dared to imagine for her before. 3 weeks. It sounded short, almost nothing in the grand scheme of things. But for a child who had already lost so much, 3 weeks could feel like a lifetime. That night, Liam sat across from Ella at the dining table, pushing pasta around his plate, while she described her nervous excitement about starting school. "I have an art showcase coming up," she said casually, her voice light but her eyes wary. "Miss Peterson said my painting might be in it. It's no big deal, though." "It is a big deal," Liam said, smiling. "I'll be there, promise." She shrugged, hiding a small, flickering hope beneath her calm exterior. "You might be busy." "I'll make time," he assured her. But later, alone in his office, he faced a brutal reality. The Seattle team needed his physical presence. Contracts, negotiations, political relationships. It all demanded his attention. No amount of video calls could substitute for being there in person. Rebecca Sloan, his chief of staff and trusted advisor, knocked lightly and entered. "You need to make a decision," she said gently. "The board is pressuring for a full commitment. Investors are restless." Liam leaned back in his chair, feeling the weight of years pressing down on him. His entire identity had been forged around, never hesitating, never compromising. Success had demanded it. He had demanded it of himself. But sitting there, he didn't see board members or profit margins. He saw Ella standing nervously in a new uniform, too big for her small frame, clutching a sketchpad to her chest. He saw the painting she had shown him shyly, a lighthouse, standing strong against a stormy sea. He saw Isabel's blue eyes alive in their daughter's face, asking silently if he would be different than he had been before. Rebecca sat down across from him, her voice quieter now. "You once told me that success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Maybe it's time to redefine success." Her words hit harder than any boardroom negotiation. That night, after Ella had gone to bed, Liam drafted an email to the board. He outlined a new plan. Rebecca would take point on the Seattle deal, executing his vision under his close, remote supervision. He would stay in New York at least until Ella was more secure, more certain that this new life wasn't temporary. He expected resistance, perhaps even revolt. But for once, Liam didn't care. He wasn't just building an empire anymore. He was building a life. The next morning, Liam woke early and prepared breakfast. Ella wandered into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Good morning," he said, sliding a plate of pancakes in front of her. She blinked at him, surprised. You made pancakes again. Practice makes perfect, he said with a grin. Ella hesitated, then asked the question that had clearly been weighing on her small heart. You're still going to be here, right? You're not leaving for your work trip. Liam knelt down so they were eye to eye. I'm staying, he said simply. I'll be right here. For a long moment she just stared at him, as if trying to decide if she could trust those words. Then slowly she smiled. And in that smile, Liam saw something that no amount of money could ever buy. It was the beginning of trust. It was the beginning of home. The early autumn sunlight streamed through the wide windows of Liam Whitaker's penthouse, casting a golden warmth over the newly vibrant space. A week had passed since he had chosen to stay in New York, putting Ella's needs above his company's ambitions. Each day, their bond grew stronger, stitched together through quiet breakfasts, school drop-offs, and evenings spent sketching or reading. But life, as Liam had learned, was rarely simple. The tranquility shattered with a phone call from his lawyer, Daniel Cross. Liam, Daniel said, voice taut with urgency. We have a problem. A man named Charles Everett has filed for temporary custody of Ella. Liam's heart stopped. Who is he? Isabel's brother. Apparently estranged for years, but he's resurfaced, claiming familial rights. He's arguing that a traditional family environment is better suited for Ella than your situation. My situation, Liam's voice hardened. Single parent, intense work commitments, media scrutiny. Daniel listed carefully. He's painting a picture that you can't offer stability. The accusations stung, because Liam knew they weren't entirely false. His world had been built on movement, ambition, relentless pursuit. Stability was not something he had ever prioritized. But for Ella, he would... What are our chances? He asked tightly. Daniel hesitated. It's not hopeless, but it's complicated. Custody courts favor blood relatives, especially those offering a stable two-parent home. You're fighting an uphill battle. When he ended the call, Liam stood by the window for a long time, watching the city pulse below him. He thought about the sacrifices he had already made, the promises he had whispered to Ella when she was too tired or scared to speak. He thought about the trust slowly building between them, fragile and precious. He couldn't lose her. That evening, Ella sat at the dining table working on a new painting, her face scrunched in concentration. Liam watched her from the kitchen, a knot tightening in his chest. He hadn't told her yet. How could he? How do you explain to a child who had already lost so much that her future was once again uncertain? Instead, he walked over and knelt beside her chair. What are you painting? He asked gently. It's a secret, she said, smiling mischievously for the school art show. Her excitement was palpable, and Liam forced a smile, pushing aside his fear. I can't wait to see it, he said. She hesitated, then added quietly, You'll be there, right? Absolutely. For her, there could be no maybes, no broken promises. The next few days passed in a blur of court preparations. Liam's lawyer gathered affidavits, testimonials, and evidence of his commitment to Ella's well-being. Rebecca, his trusted chief of staff, worked tirelessly behind the scenes, coordinating documents and even testifying herself, outlining the dramatic changes she had witnessed in Liam since Ella's arrival. But Charles Everett was aggressive. His lawyer painted Liam as an absentee father, too absorbed in business dealings to truly care for a child. He paraded photographs of Liam at corporate events, late-night meetings, even older news articles portraying him as ruthless and unattached. Liam attended every legal meeting with a determination that surprised even him. In boardrooms, he had negotiated billion-dollar deals without flinching. But this was different. This was about love, about showing a courtroom full of strangers that Ella was not an accessory to his life but the very center of it. As the custody hearing approached, Liam grew more aware of Ella's heightened sensitivity. She was quieter, her smiles more tentative, her eyes watching him when she thought he wasn't looking. One night, she crept into his office where he sat buried under legal paperwork. Are you mad at me? She asked softly, clutching her sketchpad to her chest. Liam's heart broke at the question. He pushed the papers aside and knelt down to her level. Never, he said firmly. None of this is your fault. She bit her lip, uncertain. Sometimes I feel like too much, she whispered. He reached out and gently cupped her face in his hands. "You're not too much. You're everything," he said, voice rough with emotion. A tear slipped down her cheek and Liam pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly. "We're a team, remember," he whispered, "no matter what." The day of the hearing arrived gray and overcast the city, wrapped in a heavy mist. Liam dressed carefully, choosing a suit that spoke of dignity without arrogance. In his pocket, tucked close to his heart, was a folded drawing Ella had secretly slipped into his briefcase, a sketch of the two of them, holding hands, smiling beneath a tree bursting with color. The courthouse felt cold and sterile, a world away from the warm chaos of life with Ella. Charles Everett sat across the aisle, his expression smug, his wife primly holding his hand. They projected the perfect image of stability and tradition. But Liam knew better. Stability wasn't measured in appearances. It was built through choices day after day. When it was Liam's turn to speak, he rose and approached the witness stand, every step fueled by love. He didn't read the carefully prepared statement his lawyer had given him. Instead, he spoke from the only place that mattered, his heart. "I didn't plan for this," he said, voice steady despite the emotion burning in his chest. "I didn't know about Ella until she found me. But from the moment she walked into my life, she became my world." He paused, scanning the faces in the courtroom. Being a parent isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up every day. No matter how hard it is, no matter what sacrifices you have to make. He glanced toward Ella, sitting small and brave in the gallery, her sketchpad clutched tightly in her lap. "I'm not the man I was 6 months ago. I'm better because of her. I will keep choosing her over work, over convenience, over everything." Silence settled over the room as he stepped down. Whatever happened next, Liam knew he had fought for her with everything he had, and he would keep fighting, no matter what. The courtroom was breathless with anticipation as Judge Ramirez shuffled the papers before her. Liam Whitaker sat rigid in his chair, every muscle in his body tight with the weight of what the next few minutes could bring. Across the room, Ella sat quietly between her advocate and Daniel, her small hands folded in her lap, her gaze never leaving him. Judge Ramirez looked up, her expression grave but not unkind. "In cases like these," she began, "we must determine not just the adequacy of each potential guardian, but the emotional, psychological, and developmental needs of the child." She paused, surveying the room. "While Mr. Everett presents a traditional and stable environment, the bond between Mr. Whitaker and the minor child, Ella, has been established as deeply significant. Moreover, Mr. Whitaker has demonstrated substantial commitment to her welfare, prioritizing her needs over his considerable professional obligations." Liam felt his chest constrict, hardly daring to breathe. "It is this court's ruling," Judge Ramirez continued, "that permanent custody of Ella Whitaker be awarded to Mr. Liam Whitaker." For a moment, the words did not fully register. It was Daniel's quiet, almost reverent clap on his back, and Ella's small, choked sob of relief that brought Liam to his senses. He turned just in time to see Ella rushing toward him, her sketchpad falling forgotten to the floor. He caught her mid-leap, lifting her into his arms and holding her as tightly as he dared. "You're not going anywhere," he whispered against her hair, voice rough with emotion. "You're home, you're safe." Around them, the courtroom blurred into insignificance. The next few weeks unfolded in a whirlwind of change, but this time it was the kind of change that brought new beginnings rather than fear. Liam moved meetings permanently to remote formats, set strict working hours, and most importantly, built their life together with intention. Ella thrived at her new school. Her teachers spoke of her growing confidence, her blossoming creativity. Each evening, their penthouse no longer echoed with cold silence, but with laughter, spilled paint, and conversations about everything from school projects to bedtime stories. One evening, Liam returned from a rare meeting to find Ella busy in the living room constructing what looked suspiciously like a blanket fort. "What's this?" he asked, dropping his briefcase and loosening his tie. "It's a castle," she declared, poking her head out from under the largest blanket. "And you're the king, but you have to pass 3 tests to enter." Liam laughed genuinely and without restraint, dropping to his knees. Challenge accepted. That night, as he crawled into the fort beside her, lit by the soft glow of fairy lights and filled with the scent of fresh popcorn, Liam realized how profoundly his life had changed. How full it felt now, with messy joy replacing sterile order. Later, Ella climbed into his lap with her sketchbook. "I made something for you," she said shyly. She turned the pages to reveal a new drawing. Two figures hand in hand, standing atop a skyscraper, looking out over a city bathed in sunset hues. Above them, in careful lettering, were the words, "Home is wherever we're together." Liam's throat tightened as he traced the lines with his fingers. "Do you really like it?" she asked, her voice small. "I love it," he said honestly. "It's perfect." He framed the drawing the next day and placed it on his desk, right where he once kept awards and contracts. It was a new kind of achievement, one far more precious. Months passed. The winter snow gave way to the first warmth of spring. Life settled into a rhythm neither of them had ever dared to imagine. Saturday mornings meant pancake breakfasts and trips to the farmer's market. Evenings were for reading games and sometimes simply sitting together in comfortable silence. One Saturday, as they wandered through Central Park, Ella turned to him with the earnestness only children possess. "Are you glad I found you?" she asked. Liam stopped walking and knelt before her, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. "I'm grateful every single day," he said, voice thick with emotion. "You didn't just find me, Ella. You saved me." Her smile, pure and bright, lit up the chilly morning air. And just like that, Liam realized that the life he thought he wanted, the empire, he had built, the accolades. The fortune was nothing compared to the life he had now. A life messy and beautiful and unpredictable. A life made whole by the trust of a little girl who chose him to be her home. That evening, as they sat side by side on the couch, Ella's head resting against his shoulder, Liam closed his eyes for a moment, savoring the peace. He had faced courtrooms, boardrooms, and the kind of battles that left no visible scars, but wounded deeply, and yet nothing had been more challenging or more rewarding than learning how to be someone's family. He wasn't just building skyscrapers anymore. He was building a life. Liam Whitaker's journey from a solitary empire-building CEO to a devoted father marks one of the most profound transformations a person can undergo. What began with a simple handwritten note shattered the carefully controlled world Liam had built and forced him to confront a truth he never expected. True success is not measured in skyscrapers, accolades, or boardroom victories. It's measured in the lives we touch and the love we choose to give. Throughout their story, we witnessed how Liam grappled with fear, inadequacy, and doubt. But it was his willingness to show up imperfectly, vulnerably, wholeheartedly, that changed everything. It wasn't wealth, power, or influence that won Ella's trust. It was the countless small moments sitting through nightmares, celebrating art projects, choosing to be present when it mattered most. It was understanding that parenting isn't about grand gestures, but about daily conscious choices to put another person's needs before your own. Ella, in her quiet resilience, taught Liam what it meant to love without conditions. She didn't need a perfect father. She needed someone who would stay, someone who would choose her day after day. And Liam, despite his missteps, proved that redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about building a better future, one decision at a time. From court battles to corporate pressures, Liam faced countless opportunities to retreat into the safe, familiar world of business. But each time he chose differently. He chose Ella. In doing so, he didn't lose his identity. He expanded it. He discovered that leadership isn't just about commanding empires. It's about guiding hearts, starting with the one that needed him most. The greatest lesson we can draw from Liam and Ella's story is simple but profound. Love requires presence, not perfection, not wealth, not eloquent promises, but the brave, imperfect act of showing up again and again, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. In today's fast-paced world where success is often equated with busyness and material achievements, Liam's story reminds us to ask, what are we building? Are we creating lives filled with connection, trust, and meaning? Or are we constructing empires that leave us empty inside? The good news is, it's never too late to choose differently. It's never too late to prioritize the people who truly matter. Whether you're a parent, a friend, a mentor, or simply someone longing for deeper connections, the path forward begins with a single step: being there consistently, honestly, and with an open heart. Now I'd love to hear from you. What part of Liam and Ella's journey resonated with you the most? Do you believe that true success lies more in relationships than in career achievements? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective, and if you found this story moving and meaningful, don't forget to subscribe and support the channel so we can continue bringing you more inspiring, heartfelt content. See you in the next incredible story.